lotus grows, phoenix rise, fire flows. Blue Lotus Ministries, let's go! Down by the Nile where the waters run deep, the blue lotus wakes from its sacred sleep. It blooms in the light under Ra's golden sun, a sign that a new day has begun. The phoenix flies with its wings of fire, burning through the pain, rising higher. Rebirth and rule, it's a natural way. The lotus and the phoenix lead the way. Egyptian blue lotus, shining so true. Phoenix in the fire, breaking through. Together they rise, yeah. Together they shine. A balance of life, divine design.
Welcome to Blue Lotus Ministries podcast. I'm Thomas Alford, and today we're diving into a crucial topic: health disparities. Man, what a topic! We're joined by the insightful Dr. Eddy Consult. Welcome back to Blue Lotus Studios. Let's break down what health disparities mean, why they exist, and what we can do to address them. Dr. Eddy, let's start simple. When we talk about health disparities, we're really talking about differences in health outcomes between different groups. It's not just about who gets sick, it's who doesn't. It's about why. What are some of the main reasons these disparities exist?
Okay. Yeah, it's a nice time to be here again. I think the last discussion was very fruitful, and here we're back again to discuss on a different topic, like you've said, disparities between the different worlds of healthcare, be it holistic healthcare or general medicine as a whole. I think one of the major issue is we have more investment in the general healthcare. Let's say the modern medicine era. There's so much investment towards it over time. And when you look at the history of how, let's say, medicine came to like become modern now, where we're practicing it more at the level of modern medicine, less of like holistic care, you have to calm down and look at it in different perspective, which is number one. The father of the modern medicine was referred to as being Hippocrates. But as much as Hippocrates was said to be the father of the modern medicine, we had other people like the Egyptian medicine was one of the most prominent as a back then. Even the people from the Greek people, they studied the Egyptian healthcare as well. And one of their biggest, or let's say, father of
Right.
medicine in Egypt was Imhotep. So this was one of the earlier founders of this whole talk of modern medicine. So some people have that conception: is it Hippocrates, is it Imhotep? So we have this set of people, and there are lots of them if I keep mentioning. Now, as much as we have these people, you now look at who are the fathers of, like, let's say holistic care, like the early fathers. Who can you say these guys are they the fathers of like holistic care? We have to look at a few of them. And one of these guys that I studied and I observed that, okay, why are they not giving people in the holistic care a chance or opportunity to, like, exhibit their own products, like we talked about in the previous conversation? Let's look at a lot of these things. How do we do much better by bringing them to put their heads together with those that are practicing modern medicine? You realize, the investment is not so much inside it. We seem to have more of like, you guys don't know so much, we know much better than you kind of situation. So that's the biggest problem. How do we embrace the guys from the holistic care to come in to work with the guys in the general medical, section? So this is the biggest issue that we've faced. So that's all. And like I wanted to say before,
So let me ask you.
like when you look at the fathers of modern medicine, they mention Hippocrates. They're going to mention Imhotep. Imhotep is like seen like a god in the Egyptian, studies. They see him as very high ranked. He was a priest. He was into healing and a lot of stuff. Now, when you look at the fathers like holistic medicine, they're going to mention Edgar Case, which is a very popular man, born 1877 to 1945. He died. Then they also look at Gladys McGarry, this one woman too, who was very prominent in holistic care. So these are the people that we watch of. As much as Aristotle too was also seen as the father of like evidence-based medicine. That was Aristotle, like we heard about him. Then we have others that came by, which was William Osler, modern medicine as well. But above all these people, the person among all of them that tried to bring in holistic care alongside modern medicine was Imhotep, the Egyptian priest, philosopher, scientist. He was everything. And they saw him as a god, like I told you. They used to call him Asclepius. That was his god name that Egyptians gave to him, Asclepius. So that's the perception or insight of how medicine has transformed or transcend over years with the different fathers. That's all.
Okay. So real quick, I'm gonna kind of steer off, but it's okay. It relates. So, do you think at some point, if holistic medicine and general medicine come together, do you think it'd be affordable for all parties involved? Let's say from people coming from various backgrounds, poor people, rich people, middle class. Would would things get better for them when it comes down to cost efficiency?
Well, would I agree that there will be a point in time that there will be that equilibrium? Let's say equilibrium where there is a 50-50 situation where people now get more dependent on holistic care more than modern medicine. I can't really say. But
Right.
when you look at the different practices in holistic care, I think it's already making a lot of impression. So when you look at example, the acupuncture is very prominent. It's a Chinese method of meditation techniques and healing. It works. It's very common and it's spreading across different parts of the world. When you look at homeopathy, homeopathy is also very much there, using heavily diluted substances to stimulate the body in different ways to get healing. That is also very common. Then in the
Right.
US, recently, I conversed with one of my colleagues who is into naturopathic medicine. That's naturopathy. These guys are also doing very well, where we're trying to introduce different forms of lifestyle, how to stay more on natural stuffs. This is also coming in a lot. And then the yoga, which is the biggest part, yoga and meditation, is also helping very much. And then one other area I didn't mention is called the Ayurveda. Ayurveda is one of those sections that is talking about the doja. It's more like still linked to the Chinese per se, but this is where they use a lot of herbs as well. So when you have these sections that is in holistic medicine already showing like trends that they are going to try to compete with us, I don't think it will take a while or take too long before we have them compete again. Because once upon a time in history, if you look back far back 100 years ago, 200 years ago, holistic care was the leader. It was leading so much. Now, when you look at modern medicine, how much medications do we have in modern medicine? Let me put a little insight to that. We have 570, if not 550, listed medications approved by the WHO. More like these medications, we call it the WHO model list of essential medications. So they have about 500 and something of them. They started with the numbers of, let's say, 155 of them around 2016. That was the first time they tried to initiate this. Let's say the WHO want to know how many medications do they have in the system. You look at holistic care, I've not really seen their list of medications like really published or emphasized, but we know we have a lot of products, a lot of herbs across the globe. But do we have a comprehensive list? Which is why I think for there to be a bridge where holistic care can mix up very well, we need more investment in the whole phytotherapy and all that. Let us have a list of all the herbs, all the main herbs and the ones that we don't even know about. Let's know or have a list or a book the same way we have it in our pharmacology, and we have a way that we've enlisted these drugs. We know their pharmacokinetics, their pharmacodynamics. We need to know all these things about herbs as well. Before now they weren't so interested in this, but I am saying from a practical point of view, as someone that's practiced and I've seen evidence that a lot of these herbs were transformed to become the synthetic medications that we are having today. Example, penicillin, for example. The extract from penicillin was just from growing of moles in the lab. And the scientist that was growing it, Alexander Fleming, when he was working on it, he realized that it was just out of mistake that was able to find out, like he left his petri dish that he was trying to do a culture for, mixing some mole, penicillium, and then on top of a staphylococcal bacteria. And when he came back the next day, he had forgotten. He realized that the penicillium actually reacted, blue penicillium reacted by making the staphylococci to disappear from the petri dish. This alone gave him the clue that, oh, really, we can work with this particular, herb, or let's say plant that helped us to come out with this. And that is when scientists now went in to convert something like penicillium into penicillin that we have today, which we're all using for a lot of stuff. I can keep going on with a lot of these things. So this is the area that I think, if we can embrace it and look at it how we saw it 50 years ago, 100 years ago, that herbs were being valued. More investment to see how to extract them, know what is toxic within them, and then titrate the right dosages, have a book for it that both we as modern medical practitioners can also read, and they too in their own world can also read our own synthetic books to learn one or two. If you bring these two schools of thoughts together, it can still work properly. No need for ego or saying one person is better than one. So that's it.
Right. Awesome. Let's look at some real world examples. For instance, communities with limited access to fresh food often have higher rates of diabetes and heart disease. Dr. Eddy, can you share how economic and environmental factors play a role in shaping these outcomes?
Yeah, so diabetes, like you said, there's a projection that we're going to see close to let's say 2 billion people going to face overweight, like being overweight. And we've seen this in a lot of countries already. And then they say among these 2 billion people, we're still going to have another 1 billion people that would fall into obesity proper. And we usually say as doctors, watch your BMI and all that. But I believe we need to tell people the truth. What is really making people fall into having diabetes type 2? Of course, we have diabetes type 1. And other illnesses, endocrine dysfunctional illnesses. We have a lot of them. The thing that makes a man becomes very unhealthy is the moment you eat so much bad fat, bad carbohydrates, bad dangerous saturated fats. The moment you consume things of this nature, you are leading yourself to early death. So as much as you're consuming this stuff, you need to create a balance. Of course, we need carbohydrates. Of course, we need some of this fat. Where do you create a balance? That's why they call it a balanced diet. Where does your vegetables come in? You understand? Where does your proteins come in? And then if you are born into a family, for example, there's some families that have what we call Prader-Willi syndrome. A Prader-Willi syndrome simply means that they have some certain gene that has been altered, some error within the gene that would make them prone to being very fat, or let's say obese people. And for such people, it's a different therapy. That's where we in the modern medical world, we come in with either a surgery, a bypass surgery and all this kind of stuff, bariatric surgeries for them. But the real cause of diabetes is linked to not just sugar consumption, like some people used to say. The real cause of this is lack of balanced diet. That's the first one. Second one, not knowing your family history properly, because it's genetics as well. Genetics play a big role in diabetes type 2. So if you get to know the history of your family, that you guys fall victim to this, then you control your diet. If you control your diet well, you're not going to have that crisis immediately. Probably to take some time before it manifests. That's for people that have it from genetics. Now, for those who acquire it from consuming high level of sugary substance, for example, a bottle of Coca-Cola is containing 35 grams of sugar. Some even contain up to 45 grams of sugar, not even Coke alone. You look at the, Fanta, the Sprite, all these guys, you understand? These things have high sugar level because they are using high fructose serum or syrup like they're using in the US. And some other countries like Mexico and the rest are using sugar cane. So this high sugar content, which you shouldn't consume more than 6 teaspoons of sugar or 7 teaspoons of sugar in a day. When you keep doing this without knowing that, your body at some point would say, hey, I don't need this again. And one organ that is responsible for this is the pancreas. So you have the pancreas, guy that produces insulin. He's looking at everybody, pumping him up. And maybe you're just one of those unfortunate people, and the islet cells in your pancreas suddenly stop working, meaning they're not going to produce insulin to break down the sugar. How will you know? Some people don't know this. So most times the reason is not even because of the too much sugar. Most times it's because possibly your pancreas is already not being able to produce a lot of insulin to break down the sugar. And how do you know this? Regular hospital checkup, check your fasting blood sugar, check your random blood sugar, control your diet. Don't consume more than 6 to 7 teaspoons of sugar in a day. Don't consume anything that they are mixing and telling you, oh, it's a fruit drink or something, and you don't know how much sugar is being titrated inside it. Then you can gradually adjust your lifestyle to, let's say, you can detox yourself. I do it sometimes. So maybe in a month, I've been having my tea with some 1 cup of sugar or something. The next month, I may not be on that. I'm totally off sugar. I can have my tea basically without sugar. Especially when you pick some of this stuff, beverages, when you look at them, they already have sugar inside it, even before you adding some sugar. There was a time I picked some kind of product from a store in Nigeria, and they say this is like a ginger garlic kind of tea. And then when I picked it up, I looked at the sugar in one of the sachets. It's 16 grams already. Now, some people don't even read this. If you take 2 sachets of that and put inside a glass cup, or your teacup, you're gonna have close to 30 something grams of sugar already, without you knowing. But they're just gonna write it like up in a place that you cannot read easily. So here you have people, even when they're consuming natural stuffs, herbs, mixing sugar inside it to consume. This is bad. So the first step for this is we need to adjust and advise people, nutritionists, dietitians, they need to advise people that the amount of sugar you're consuming, the amount of oil you're consuming, I'm not even talked about the oil. Most of the oils we're using to fry our food stuff, you understand, a lot of them, aside maybe cooking olive oil tries, they have very high calories. Almost like, let's say, 700 calories inside some of the oils they're using to fry your stuff. And then how much should you consume in a day for a normal human being? We say women 2,000 calories. We say men 2,500 calories. That's if you're not doing any hectic work. Like probably you're not an NFL footballer, you're not into sports, you're not carrying heavy stuff in the factory or driving heavy trucks. Okay, for such people, you're just doing an office work day to day. Why would you eat more than 3,000 calories, 4,000 calories in a day? That's not good. It pushes you to getting overweight, and obesity comes in, where we now have metabolic syndrome setting, meaning diabetes come in, hyperkalemia comes in, hypertension comes in, a lot of issues, syndrome X, like we call it, now start showing up. So that's basically what I think is a problem. We're not eating well, and then we're having too many companies produce ultra manufactured food, or let's say artificially produced foods that contain high level sugar, or let's say sweeteners, which is not advisable. You have the likes of monosodium glutamate in lots of them. I can keep listing a lot of them that have all this stuff. And that's what we need to control. We need to go back to being natural, stay with our vegetables and all that.
All right. Now let's talk about solutions. How can doctors, community health workers, holistic health practitioners help bridge these gaps?
Well, Reverend, when you say reach out to this guy, I think the last conversation we had, we looked at what social media could
Right.
do, the influence of social media in sending out the right information. Now, there's also a stigma, something that I don't really like. Stigmatization have made some of these people withdraw from sharing their problems with you. For example, we have people that are battling depression. Hence, for that reason, they have very bad eating habits. So they have a lot of eating disorders, meaning because they are depressed, because something broke them down, because they're not functional in certain ways in the society. Some of them get on to eat as, very careless. They don't care. These are the kind of people that they need to talk to. Sometimes you see someone that is very overweight, be it in the church, be it in a gathering, instead of laughing at them or, saying something negative, I could possibly think you can approach them and say, hey, bro, I think you're not doing so great. I have some formulas to help cut down your weight. I was once like this. I think we can use some reverse psychology to address some of this, to help talk to people that are very much overweight, to tell them, hey, being overweight is not good for your health, especially your heart. You could develop cardiovascular problems. We can point this out for them in different
Right.
ways. We can also have educative sessions like the one you were trying to do here, we're trying to do with a podcast, that we try to enable them and advise them to say, hey, this is how you should probably eat X or Y. You should have a food plan. You should include this in your food plan. You should exclude this in your food plan. You understand? You should try to create a fasting method because sometimes you got to fast. Fasting helps the body in different ways. If you used to eat 3 times in a day, you can reduce it to 2 times in a day. Even 1 time in a day is okay. So long as you're not doing any hectic work that demands you losing a lot of kilojoules, or energy, like we know. So why would you just decide to eat 5 times in a day? Why would you do that? So you need to adjust your diet. Stay more on things that, stand that would help the blood per se, not just the fatty systems or the adipose tissue in the body. So this is what I think. I think we need to do more awareness campaign on social media. We need to allow more holistic care people and doctors to come up and talk. The whole idea of clouding these people with the idea that there are medications that you can take to lose weight, which I'm not opposing it, but I just think that sometimes the whole truth is not being told to these people. Drugs do have side effects. For example, Ozempic. You understand? Wegovy and Ozempic and all that. Example, Ozempic is very common. Everybody's using it. It's a great medication. Everyone is using it, but it has side effects. It has side effects like disturbing the eyes. It has side effects like creating thyroid storm, issues with the thyroid cancer for people that have it in their family. It has an issue of causing, your bowels to just start having frequent stooling for no reason. You understand? So these things have side effects, and some people are not aware of it. It can even make you become what we call cachexic. That means you're losing the whole muscle mass in your body, and that's not good because if the body is losing a lot of muscles, and even the heart itself gets tired, you understand? So and anemia sets in some situation. So why would you encourage people instead of doing exercises, creating balanced diets? You are now making them dependent more on medication. I don't think that's right. Except there are situations that I would say, okay, there's Prader-Willi syndrome in this family. Okay, this is really genetics. Okay, these guys cannot control their eating habits. So let's do something else. Let's give them medication. Let's do some surgery. We have such exceptional cases where we attend to. But where everybody now is looking at Ozempic, across the world now, the Reverend, everybody looking at Ozempic. Some people are self-prescribing these medications for themselves. And this is bad. The future outcome for this, we're already hearing, you know, court cases in the US and a lot of countries about the side effects of Ozempic. Not because the medication is not good for the brain or even the heart and the rest. A lot of studies are being done into it. But the truth is, how much are the people consuming this educated about the side effects as well? Not just, the positive side of it. Everything has a side effect, whatever you're consuming. Even water. Excessive water consumption will cause hyponatremia. You're going to lose a lot of sodium in your body, your brain, and you start having seizures. So we have to be careful. That's what I would say.
Right. And, like stress causes overeating and stimulation,
True,
and
true.
it's a coping skill for most. It's a coping skill for most. But mental health plays the biggest part of it all, because mental health is often overlooked in discussions about health disparities. Trauma, lack of access to mental health resources can widen, a world of people that already are stressed because of work, bills, and everything in that nature. It just you put on the weight, now that's stressing you out, and then that weight is causing your heart to have pressure because of the inside of your body. It's pressing down on your heart. It's causing the cardiovascular issues plus the cholesterol. And then you have to look at a whole world, a wide range of things that can be easily dealt with if we can really, in the world period, not just America. I would say just America, but no, it's a
Yeah,
world
it's a
thing.
whole world. It's not
If we
just
can
America. You're right.
ease up, right? If we can ease up just a little bit of the stress of everyday life, you could start seeing a sparkle of something happening. Like there has to be something to where a person can live and enjoy life without stressing, oh, I got to go to work, I have these bills. If I don't work, we don't eat. If we don't eat, we'll starve, you know. And that stress alone can cause health issues, just the stress itself. Then the overeating causes the overweight. And then it's just so much to it. But what do you think we can do to bridge the gap in health outcomes, whether it be holistic practitioner work or, even you can't just go up to a person nowadays and be like, hey man, you're overweight. You got to stop eating because that person is going to take it to court with you. You have to use it in a manner where you're like, hey, if you really loved your family, you take better care of yourself. And then they're going to hit you with, oh, I take liposine. Well, okay, if you like your ketone levels going up and all this random fiber that you're adding to your diet just by taking 2 pills a day, it can't be good for you. Or you tell the bodybuilder that thinks he's really doing good that, you know, he's over here working out with creatine and muscle milk and all this good stuff that's also causing kidney dysfunction later on in life. You're thinking to yourself, there's plant based items that you can take that also benefit you in the same way as that creatine. Even though it's natural, the body creates its own. If you eat enough meat, you'll actually have enough creatine within your body. But there are plant based herbs that you could take that really enhance the muscle. But where I'm going with this is what do you think we can do to create a less stressful life? And I mean, it's not going to happen tomorrow, but within the next 10 years, we can actually do something. You know what I mean? So I'll leave it to you.
Well, Reverend, you've said a lot, like based on what you've added, stress, and like we say, eating disorders is also tied to a lot of mental health issues. And how do you correct or help these people to battle stress? When you look at your holistic care, there's something that is done there. We talked about it earlier today. I think I talked about yoga. I talked about meditation, things people
Yep.
could do that would definitely help you. So, you talk about acupuncture, but the best thing there is to relieve stress. What do? You gotta do something. How much time do you sleep? When do you have time for exercises, meditation? These are stuff that you need to bring into play. So, and it's not just when you talk about people that just want to consume as much calories as they want. The environment, societal function has a role to play. If you live with someone that is basically like, how will I call it? Eat late at night, for example, night eating syndrome. These dudes will wake up and then go check their fridge around 2, 3 in the morning to take some, sugary stuff. That's not cool. Because around 10 o'clock in the evening, your body needs to rest. The body needs to produce melatonin, which is a sleep hormone. And you're waking it up by introducing food. And the insulin that was trying to rest is trying to push itself to be like, oh, come on, this bro is bringing in something for me. If you keep changing the system, altering your circadian rhythm with different eating habits beyond the normal time frames, there is no way you're not going to get overweight or fall into getting obese. So this is the thing. And eating disorders affect several millions of people. You understand? Between ages of like 12 to 32, you have a lot of people that are already so big. And how do you do this? What can we do to help them? They need to meet their nutritionists, dietitians, very important. Especially those guys that are suffering from what they call the binge eating disorders. They need to help them. These are their ways to help them.
Right.
If you can calm down and consult with your doctor refers you to a dietitian, and that's the best way to start or fix yourself. And even as doctors, we're going to see what is stressing you, what is making you, you know, eat the way you're eating. Is this really psychological? And then if you're having any form of depression or something, we know what to place you on to help you out of that. So it's like it should be a multi versatile management. You understand? Multidisciplinary kind of management when it comes to people that are battling a lot of eating disorders. And then you now come with a psychologist to help, advise cognitive behavioral therapy for someone who is having eating disorders. So this is a way I think we can go about it.
I have a specialty. It's electro muscle stimulation, and for those that are kind of lazy, I hate to say it like that. For those that don't find the energy that they would find if they have eaten correctly. When you eat certain green foods, you produce a certain amount of energy and you're ready to burn off that calorie intake that you had already taken in. But the electric muscle stimulation that I mentioned earlier, I'm not saying this is the next best thing to working out because nothing beats working out, nothing beats going for that walk. But for days that you can't or you have a lack of energy, you could put the electric muscle stimulator, or I'm just going to call it EMS. You could put this onto your muscles, your biceps, triceps, your pecs, quads, etc. You could put it all over your body and stimulate that muscle to where it's actually working and being active, and it's keeping you at a certain calorie cut. And I'm not saying it replaces, yet again, it does not replace working out, but for those times where you are feeling the stress of life, the lack of, you know, energy, you can use this machine. But if you're like me and you work out almost every day, you can also use this machine to enhance your muscles. And it's very holistic, literally holistic. Other than that, back to, we're going to go back on task. Not all communities experience healthcare the same way, Dr. Eddy. Let's discuss the importance of crucial healthcare. How can practitioners ensure they're providing care that respects diverse backgrounds, beliefs, and traditions? That doesn't, you know, no matter what religion, race, and etc. you are.
Yeah, so Reverend, when you look at medical practice and in a broad perspective, or looking at it across the world, with my little exposure to like Eastern Europe, Africa, especially, I've seen that, doctors are not stopped by, let's say, traditions or religion or this, political issues that go on. Except you want to be a medical practitioner and want to sound very political or religious. But we hardly do so, which means uh, an African doctor should be comfortable treating a European patient. American doctor should be comfortable treating an Asian patient. And what we do is you have to learn to welcome new things. So maybe you're managing an Asian and he's telling you, oh, my diet involves me eating uncooked meals or meals that are not, temperature is not 100 degrees, 75 degrees. You shouldn't just rush to condemn them. You got to try and know, why are they doing this? Is this what they eat in the environment? Is it really helping them? You understand? Then you start from there. That's what we call case history. We take the history of the patient. Let's know what you've been eating. Let's know, where you are. Let's know your religion. So, different people, different cultures, different religions. In fact, we even had issues at a point in time in the medical world with the likes of the Jehovah Witness. And the Jehovah Witnesses group of people, they don't believe in certain things we do in medical world. Example, blood transfusion. So how are you going to manage a case of anemia when you have a case of anemia or a severe anemic case or hemorrhagic stroke kind of situation where the patient is already bleeding out heavily and we need to transfuse some pints of blood? And here you go, patient tells you, I'm Jehovah Witness. What are you going to do? Are you going to, let the patient die? Or, and we have situations where patients have died based on religious practices, saying, no, we are not allowed to transfuse blood. So, or, take blood from somebody else. Hence, they're okay with the outcome. So we've even accepted some of these practices, which for me, I feel is wrong. Like, if I need to save a life, why not save that life? You understand? I don't think certain religious protocols should interfere with some of our medical practices or what we are doing. We are all about saving life. We're not trying to kill a life. So if your own practice looks like, your religious practice or cultural practice looks like, you're not going to take advice or adopt something that would save a life, I don't think that's the right religious practice. Although we're not going to criticize you or attack you openly, but definitely we know this is not right. And since we're not allowed to go against patients' consent, once a patient says this is what they want to do, we cannot oppose or force them to go otherwise. That's one thing in our practice. So here you have doctors that will be like, well, patient signed here that no, this is what they want to do. Family of patient said X or Y. So these are some of the bottlenecks we face. And the best thing I think we should do is we need to do more education again, more awareness. We need to talk to some of these religious groups, some of these families, Example, I think of recent, let me just bring this up as well. You look at something like incest. I once tried to talk about it on social media, but people were like, oh, come on, Dr. Eddy, you want to cause trouble now. I took a study about something like incest, for example, sleeping with family members, having sexual affairs with your family members. And I asked myself, why did they stop this? If you look at the amount of illnesses like hereditary diseases among people, even in Europe, it's very rampant in Europe because some European countries are practicing this, the incest thing. Some countries are allowing it, even in Africa.
Yeah.
The reason why, aside the moral standing that everybody's looking at, the morality, what Christianity says, what Islam says, what Baha'i religion says, what Confucianism says, you understand, what the Hindus say, aside these moral standings of saying no, let family members marry people from outside. Don't do that. The clinical and health implication of this is huge. You could have family members that have cardiovascular problem, remarrying themselves to carry on the same genetic, issues that will still lead to cardiovascular problems, heart attacks within the same family. The same cancers, cancerous cells trending in the family. You find family members still sleeping with themselves or having sexual affair, and this still continues. While our goal is to stop health problem, and one of those pathways, if you can crossbreed or change someone that in their family, they are known for having thyroid problems. You understand? A lot of hormonal imbalances, a lot of cancers. You try to switch them with another family that doesn't have it. I don't even understand that kind of thing, like an allograft kind of thing. It kind of helps to reduce these issues in a way. But here you go. When I studied to look at it, almost 79 countries in the world approved this. And then some 3 states in the US also practice this. I can't remember one of the name of the states or 3 of them. Probably you read about it. When I looked at this, I was like, why on earth would we allow this? Probably this is the reason why we're having the uprise of certain health problems that we cannot still solve within the European. The Europeans have a lot of illnesses. If you compare them with Africans, we're not so sick like that. I'm not saying we are better. If we look at the Africans, well, aside maybe cholera, malaria, salmonella, paratyphi infection, dengue fever, what else could I mention? HIV, okay, not so rampant. Hepatitis. I don't think you will hear us say, oh, an African man is suffering from, let's say, Stephen Johnson syndrome, something very regular. Or you hear something like Hodgkin's lymphoma, or you hear something like Huntington's disease. Very funny names that come up. I don't even get the logic. Although we have a lot of heart issues in Africa, cardiovascular issues as well, hypertension is on the rise, diabetes is also there. But when you look at the list of illnesses in Europe, America, and the rest, some names you'll be so shocked. A lot of issues that are going on. So here we go again. How do we educate people and inform them that, you understand, we from the medical world, we are not your enemy. We should try work and listen to your own side of the story. For we doctors, we can tell, okay, I can hear that you say this works. Oh, you have the magic mushroom. Magic mushroom is good. But we know that magic mushroom, if you take it too much, it will lead to allergies. Hallucinogen it is, it's an hallucinogen. It could cause a lot of hallucinations and other problems. But it could be working for other things. Oh, it's healing,
Right.
it got spiritual outcomes and all that. It works. But how do you use it wisely? Who is advising you? Not just for you to cut it up and use it as you want. Some of the opioids that they're using today,
Right.
some of the what we call the coca, one of them they're using to use something like cocaine. People are still using it like in some countries that have these altitude illnesses that they suffer. Some of them still take plants that contain high level of this cocaine substance and all that. So how do you match or balance this is the issue. So that's where I'm going to stop.
Right.
Yeah, so Reverend, that's where I'm going to stop on the talk of like how we can help bridge this gap and see how things can go around in terms of like mixing religion, race, politics. How do we come in to help to change a whole lot? That's all.
Hello. I heard him cut
Yeah,
off for a
Reverend, are you
split
there?
second. You there, Doc? Oh, you okay? Okay. Yeah, you cut off for
Yeah,
a
I'm back.
second. We were over here
Don't
waiting.
mind me.
It's all right. So, I totally agree. I think I think you're 100% right. I'm not going to even argue on that state. Uh, Accountability in most of that is crucial. To wrap everything up in a nutshell, Dr. Eddie, what are some community resources where you are, and I'll name some here where I am, or initiatives that listeners can tap into to address health disparities in their own neighborhoods? How can they get involved?
Okay. So one of it I would say is, the first thing I would say on this podcast today is I'm on the Blue Lotus, Networker Studio, and what we are doing here is already one of those steps to help address and help people battling different problems in the healthcare. So I would advise the more we're promoting our, Blue Lotus Ministries, what you're doing in terms of, reaching out to people that are battling different health problems, that's one step. Proper awareness,
Right.
proper education, health education helps. That's one way to tap into that source. And then the next way is I'm also available. Some of my colleagues are available. So for me, you can definitely reach out to me, like on my platform on Twitter at Eddy Consult. And I would advise you, depending on your health history, I look into your diet. What are you consuming? The things you're consuming, how much
Right.
energy do they have? If you want to go a little bit deep into like spirituality, certain food you eat is not even good for your spiritual health. That one is also there, aside your physical health. You can be consuming heavy carbohydrates
Right.
before you go to bed. People who eat heavily and go to bed would battle sleep apnea or have issues with sleep paralysis because by the time you go down to your bed, your airways are all struggling. Digestion has not completed its course. You just finished consuming and you're going to the bed. That's not good. Eating after 10 o'clock, you know, in the evening, not great for you. You're pushing your body to start overworking your insulin receptors. Hence, you could result to having type 2 diabetes. Staying too long without having meals, not so great too, because you're creating an imbalance. You're not having a lot of, oxidant, a lot of free radicals to work to help the brain and other systems to function appropriately. Drink a lot of water. 6 cups of water in a day, perfect. If you want to go more, water is very good for the body. Reduce how much alcohol. In fact, if possible, don't take no alcohol. Why? Because alcohol has what they call carcinogen inside. It's converts when it gets to your liver, converts to what we call acetaldehyde, which is a very dangerous carcinogen. It's actually poison. So people that are consuming this, you are stressing the liver. The liver cells are the ones suffering. And being a detoxing organ, like the liver it is, it's going to face stress. You cannot keep consuming high level of sugary stuff and overloading your pancreas and even your liver. These guys need that detox, meaning there's some time you need to abstain totally from sugar. In fact, there's a way sugar consumption of high level of sugar has resulted to people having very aggressive attitude. I could put that. Meaning, if you don't have some cup of sugar or coke, you see some people are very agitated. They are very impatient. They become intermittently explosive in a way. That means you've suddenly succumbed to sugar or sugary drink. Without that, you can't function. Some people, the same thing for caffeinated drinks. Anything with caffeine or coffee, without it, you cannot function. You shouldn't allow the body system to suddenly adjust and be self-dependent on substances. Once that happens, I don't think you're going to be a healthy person, which is why you need to create a balance. And once in a while, you review your health
Right.
with medical professionals or holistic care practitioners who are well-trained people and then have gone to school, or naturopathic practitioners who have, gotten doctorate in their naturopathic medicine practice. So you don't just go to anybody that will just tell you. And then we have a lot of people that say they have formulas for your health. I don't think you should meet anybody that says they have a formula to your health. Tap into professionals. Listen to the right podcast. Watch the right YouTube videos because there are a lot of advices on social media. Some advices are not going to help your health. They're going to worsen your situation. So you need to be careful. That's the best way to tap into the right energy. Follow the right people when you see them. And then be open-minded. Don't hide your problems. Because some people hide a lot of issues, a lot of addictions that they're having. If you are open-minded and you share with me, I'm able to advise you that, hey, please don't do this. You understand? This is the way you should go about it. And that's one thing with me. Like, I come to you as well. I'm an open-minded practitioner. So I want to hear your problems to the last drop. Thank you.
I agree 100%. Me and you online, we converse with each other almost every day. We're like, hey, what do you think about this? Like Amanita muscaria. If you have a person that has a very heart addiction, heroin, what's another one? Methamphetamines, things of that nature. They even pills. They can take Amanita muscaria at a very low microdose, and it has to be dehydrated. It can't be a raw Amanita. And you can microdose yourself off of the drugs that you're on, and it does an amazing thing to your body. Blue Lotus, if you're trying to stop smoking cigarettes, get off the marijuana, things like that, you can smoke Blue Lotus. You can actually drink it in a tea if you don't want to smoke it. It's smarter to do the tea version. And you can do it in a micro dose. Don't overdo it. I mean, a gram at the most should be enough sufficiently to help you microdose off of nicotine, off of the marijuana, the THC, the cannabinoids. These things are very holistic. They're very good for you. And I'm not giving any medical advice. I know from personal experience that these things work in this manner. And I know other people that it has helped, especially Amanita. In saying that, I'm going to run through some shout outs real quick, if it's okay with you. Shout out to our incredible supporters. We're immensely grateful for the generosity and commitment of our sponsors, partners, and donors who make our mission possible. A huge thank you to Papa John's and Marco's Pizza for their ongoing donations to our Need to Feed outreach initiative, helping us provide warm meals to those in need. Our heartfelt appreciation to Publix and the Walmart's Spark Good program, and MN Nice Botanicals for their unwilling and unwavering support as sponsors, fueling our mission to uplift and nourish our community. We're also honored to partner with Making Ways for the Elderly, MWE Inc., Alice's Place Adult Day Care, and Alice's Place LLC. Together, we're working to feed the elderly, empower each other, and inspire greatness in our communities. Thank you for standing with us. Your support is the backbone to our impact. Thanks for tuning in to Blue Lotus Ministries podcast at our Blue Lotus studio. If you're ready to take action or want to learn more about holistic health and community wellness, stay connected with us, and until next time, stay empowered, stay informed, and stay well. Have a good day, y'all. So what did you think about that?